Joining us now is Republican Congressman Steve King of Iowa. You were a yes, but I hear that right now you are still undecided. Is that true, Congressman?
Well, yes, I moved my whip announcement end of last week to undecided. And a result of that, it's a result of these negotiations that have to do with the essential health benefits that throws this back into the lap of the 50 states for them to fight over what they want to do. They have the full authority to pass any legislation to write any mandates into health insurance that they like. So there's no reason for the federal government to stay in the health insurance business. The President and I agree. We want the federal government out of the health insurance business. And so we had an agreement that my language would be offered in the Senate, supported by the Vice President and the President, to strike out 1302B of Obamacare, which are the essential health benefits. Right. So once they negotiated these with the Freedom Caucus and the Tuesday Group, it's hard for me to imagine they're going to bring that language in the Senate or that it'd be effective because they've diluted this thing substantially. But we're talking.
You think there'll be a vote this week?
Oh, I'd say that's a complete toss of the coin. I think they're holding 4 to 6 votes short of what they need to go to the floor, and I don't know how soft some of those votes that are sitting on the balance are, but that's my prediction. It's just simply a toss of the coin on whether they will or whether they won't.
All right, so that's the politics. Let's get to the policy. You're a little different, certainly, from this group of moderates who are worried about the lack of protections and guarantees of coverage for people in their districts, and that there will be vulnerabilities. At the top of the list are pre-existing conditions. Now, what you're saying is you don't want the federal government to guarantee anything. You want it to all be on the states. But do you understand why so many of your brothers and sisters are worried about that, and that if you don't guarantee pre-existing conditions, you're not going to have the same guarantee of coverage of them across the country?
Well, I come from a state that took care of pre-existing conditions, and I chaired the Iowa Senate State Government Committee where we oversaw that operation. And there are a good number of states that have done so. I think we should have started from this. We should have brought the full 100% repeal of Obamacare to the floor first week in January, sent that over to the Senate. Then a lot of this negotiation is taking place about people arguing they'll vote no on any partial repeal of Obamacare and any kind of reform if they don't get to keep the parts of Obamacare that they want. That argument would have been over, and we would have been talking about what could we jam through reconciliation rather than what can somebody keep for their own regional interests, Chris.
Right, but there's a reason that you have 2 out of 3 Americans in recent polling saying don't mess with the guarantees of coverage, because we know what the insurance companies were doing before the ACA, right? They play to their pocket. You know, they're not in the goodwill business. And if you give them an opportunity to cut people out who aren't, God blessed, with great health, they will, if it makes sense. And even with the MacArthur Amendment, you're going to not have a guarantee that everyone with pre-existing conditions gets coverage. Do you acknowledge that?
Well, I would say this, the approach, I've reconciled myself on the pre-existing conditions of this in this way. If we need to subsidize pre-existing condition policies in the states from the federal government, that's part of the price of getting rid of Obamacare. I really recognize that's likely to be the case from the very beginning 7.5 years ago. So I've been in the business of helping people that have pre-existing conditions. I think that's a better way to do it. I'm a federalist. I believe that the best decisions are made as close to the people as possible. And we've demonstrated that over and over again here in this United States Congress. So why we wouldn't serve this back to the states, wash our hands from it, and do the smart things like selling insurance across state lines, do our tort reform. And that's my bill. That's $54 billion in savings. We can give people choices.
Well, you can do tort reform. You can do tort reform. There's really apples and oranges there, right? I mean, that's a very different set of statutes. And across state lines, you have that in places right now. Very hard to find somebody who will tell you that that is some magic elixir to bring down costs, because they price policies where you are, not where the company is. But on this last point, you do have to remember, Congressman, the reason the pre-existing conditions were guaranteed was because of what was happening before. They weren't guaranteed. People got closed out all the time. And if you reduce the guaranteed coverage that you have now, you will once again make people susceptible. Do you own that reality?
But I would say instead, We had that functioning well in many states across this country. It was the Obama administration, the people that voted for Obamacare, that wanted to change it. And their focus wasn't so much on pre-existing conditions as it was create the foundation for a socialized medicine program.
No, they were trying to get people
be
coverage that insurance companies were cutting out. People who were born with kids that were sick when they didn't have the coverage for it. People who would try to get policies,
Chris,
and they'd go through your records and say, no, you know, you've had asthma in the past. That's what they were trying to do.
Chris, I recognize that's an element of that. I do. But I also have been through these battles for 20 years, and I've been watching the motives of the people on the other side. I've read through Hillary Care back in the early 90s, and that's actually more scary to me than Obamacare itself was. And there's not a way to, I think, look at this objectively and think that the people that refuse to do anything to fix Obamacare, and that's all the Democrats in this Congress, their objective is a complete socialized medicine program. We want to get away from that. We want to get to free markets. We want to give people choices. And I want them to be able to buy catastrophic insurance, sell insurance across state lines, expand their health savings accounts, and I want to limit this abuse that's coming in lawsuits so that we can see our premiums go down on the medical malpractice. That lowers premiums, and that's a Republican objective. Everything I've said here is a Republican objective.
Congressman Steve King, look forward to seeing how you come out on this in the vote. Let us know. Give us a heads up if you can.
See anybody?